Hello and welcome. I'm Taryn. I am a women's physiotherapist and whole body connection guide, and I help women to connect to their wholeness through simple and embodied practices. And today I'm sharing with you an embodied practice that helps you to understand the deep core and the pelvic floor on a physical, energetic, emotional, and spiritual level. So this is a beautiful grounding practice, a practice to explore and connect with your body, to allow your body's wisdom to naturally reveal itself to you, and to really just express your body through connected and simple movement. And then after we move through these beautiful movement patterns, then we will move in towards a meditation where you connect with the pelvic bowl and pelvic bowl wisdom. So I offer you during this practice to feel really safe in your body. There is no space that you need to get to, no outcome that you need to reach. This is a beautiful exploration for you to reveal what is here for you, and to do that in a way that feels very grounded, peaceful, calm, connected, and safe. So as I offer you different movement patterns, if they don't feel good for you or right for you in your body, of course, listen to that. You are the expert in your body. You know your body better than anybody else. So trust where you feel safe to move towards. And if something feels like it's pushing you to an edge that feels quite uncomfortable and not safe, and particularly there's a big difference between something that feels challenging for us versus something that feels unsafe. And so listen to that, and if it feels like you're pushing yourself towards something that feels unsafe, then bring it back to a space that feels more connected. Because moving into that space of not feeling safe in our bodies is actually very counterintuitive to the practice that I am offering you to experience and explore here. This practice would be beautifully accompanied by some really soft and gentle music. I can offer you a playlist of songs that I feel called to, listen to with this particular practice, and of course you can choose your own that feels good for you. So let's begin, and we're going to begin in a supine position, laying down. So if I was not 37 weeks pregnant, I would be doing this laying flat on my back, and I'll offer you a couple of different options of where you can move yourself into some different positions. But of course, choose a position that feels safe for you. I will have my head elevated to keep my body safe. And if you are yourself pregnant, I encourage you to do the same. So in this position, there's a couple of different options that you can explore. You can have the feet relatively wide, or you could bring them closer into more hip distance apart. In terms of hand placement, you can have the hands resting out by the sides if that feels comfortable for you. You might like to place both hands onto heart space, or it could be comfortable to have one hand onto heart space, one hand onto the abdomen, or both hands down towards womb space. And a beautiful position or hand gesture to take there is to create an inverted triangle with the tips of the thumb and the tips of the pointer fingers touching, and just resting them down towards the pubic bone and towards the where the space in your body where you sense your uterus, and feminine body sits. So explore with different positions, and of course as you move through this practice, then as in not once but multiple times through this practice, you might sense that there's a preferred position for you, and of course experiment and explore. So to begin with, we're going to simply tune into the breath. So find yourself a really comfortable position, make any adjustments that you may need to. And gently soften the gaze or close the eyes completely if that feels good. With just a normal and relaxed breathing pattern, begin to tune into the breath, tracing the breath in through the nose, down the back of the throat, and feeling the rib cage expand beautifully with each breath in. With each breath out, feeling the release and the softening of the rib cage. Perhaps tracing the breath as it travels back up the throat and out through the nose. And as we be with our body in this position, the focus is really to become curious about how the body moves with the breath. So feeling that beautiful expansion of the rib cage with each breath in and the softening with each breath out. And noticing the front ribs, the side ribs, and the back body. Travel a little deeper into the body and bring the awareness to the abdomen. We're sensing now how the abdomen or the belly moves with the breath. So with each breath in, sensing into that gentle softening, the opening, the allowing of the belly with the breath. Sense how the belly receives the breath. And then observing that very gentle and subtle recoil of the belly button towards the spine. No contraction required, just an observation of how the body moves with the breath. Knowing that the muscles of the deep core incorporate the diaphragm, that main muscle of breathing mechanics, the deep transverse abdominal muscle, the pelvic floor at the bottom, and the multifidus muscle, our deep spinal support muscles at the back. And this beautiful core canister moves in conjunction and in synchronicity with the breath. So we're exploring here how with each breath in, the diaphragm descends, the belly bulges, and in a moment, without bringing us there yet, we're going to explore how the pelvic floor moves with the breath. So for now, tuning back into that gentle softening of the abdomen with each breath in, And if you do need a little help to soften through the belly, perhaps you place one hand onto the abdomen, and then with each breath out, just applying a very gentle pressure onto the belly. And then as you breathe in towards that hand and direct the breath to the hand and allowing the breath to bulge or press the belly against the hand, and then soften the hand and allow a springing sensation. Breathing out, gentle pressure. Breathing in, directing the breath towards the hand. And as you feel that pressure build, the energy build, the sensation build, releasing and allowing for that springing sensation. Allowing the belly to soften, and then releasing the pressure once you feel like you have that understanding or sensation of belly moving with the breath. Bring our awareness now to the muscles of the pelvic floor. And so first bring your attention to the pubic bone at the front. And noticing the coccyx or the tailbone at the back. And then the sit bones on either side. And you may like to bring your hands towards the sit bones and actually feel them so that you can bring awareness to this space in your body. You may like to even bring some gentle pressure to the pubic bone and perhaps even rocking through the pelvis to find the sacrum, and the coccyx will be a little deeper and lower, and so perhaps you press into that to bring your awareness to this space in your body, or just using that sensation of that massage to the sacrum, and then knowing that you're sensing into the space at the very base of the sacrum. So as you sense into the pubic bone, the sit bones on either side, and the coccyx at the back, this is the space where the pelvic floor muscles attach to the bony prominences of the body. And so as we breathe in, we are sensing for the movement of the pelvic floor. And again, a very soft and gentle, subtle movement. We're not offering any particular contractions here. We're simply noticing how the body moves with the breath. So with each breath in, allowing that gentle opening, that softening, the receiving of the breath through the muscles of the pelvic floor. And with each breath out, perhaps noticing that very gentle recoil of the muscles inwards and upwards. Sensation of drawing inwards and upwards without creating a particular contraction, remembering that we're simply noticing how the body moves with the breath. Now bring our awareness to the entire deep core and the muscles of the deep core that move with the breath. So the multifidus muscles at the spine remain relatively stable, and we're noticing here how as the diaphragm descends, the belly bulges and the pelvic floor softens. And with each exhale, that very gentle drawing inwards of the belly button towards the spine and the recoil inwards and upwards of the muscles of the pelvic floor. And as you sense into this beautiful movement of the body with the breath, contemplating how our body is always moving in a way that offers equilibrium, stability, wellness, and how these processes are happening within our body without any particular awareness, no particular focus, no attention needed to guide this movement. It simply is how our body is moving with the breath. Tuning into that natural support system within. We gently let that go. We come now into some pelvic motion. So staying with the sensations of the pelvis, the awareness towards the pelvis. We begin to rock the pelvis forwards and backwards, gentle tipping and perhaps sensing into that beautiful massage of the sacrum against the earth beneath. Noticing any tension that may develop, particularly in the jaw here or through the upper shoulders, and simply inviting a softening. Really tuning into how this feels in your body. And knowing that you can allow the breath to land naturally. You may breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth, or in and out through the nose, whatever feels comfortable and good for you. Change that a little now and tuning into the sit bones on either side. And begin to make some very small and subtle, gentle circles with the sit bones. So almost imagining beams of light coming out from the sit bones, and you're drawing small circles. And as you continue with this motion, I invite you to perhaps take a bigger range of motion and really tune into and notice how it feels different to move in that very subtle, small range of motion to the bigger amplitude, bigger circles. And then stopping somewhere in the center, just noticing how that feels in your body. Then taking those very small, gentle, subtle circles in the opposite direction, noticing how this feels in your body. And again, the invitation to slowly increase the amplitude, making bigger and bigger circles. Remembering, let the breath land naturally. Might feel quite good to exhale through the mouth and offer some cleansing breaths. And then stopping and resting somewhere in the center. It's really beautiful each time to just tune into those subtle changes and how the body might feel different after moving each time. We bring our awareness now to the sacrum and the triangular bone at the base of the spine that it is. And we begin to start to clock around the sacrum, pressing the edges of the sacrum into the earth beneath. And as we do this, we're tuning into that beautiful water and earth energy that exists within the pelvic space, the meeting of those two energetic qualities. And we're wanting to feel a beautiful softness, smoothness of this movement pattern. So if you find an area where you feel it gets particularly sticky or a little bit rigid, clunky, or like the water stops flowing with such ease, you might like to just take some time to move around that space, just stopping and allowing it to focus on that particular range of the movement, and then continuing on, perhaps imagining water running, maybe down a creek bed, or another imagery of a silky smooth scarf just floating in the wind. And then stopping again when you feel ready, somewhere in the center, noticing and observing how the body feels. And then bringing that motion again into the opposite direction, inviting softness, checking in with the jaw, very intimately related with the pelvic bowl. Inviting softness through this space in our body. Again, if you find a rigid or sticky space, to focus on that area without wronging it, no need to fix or change it. Simply inviting softness. With 3 more circles in this direction. And then we simply come to rest somewhere in the middle, noticing how the body feels. And then in your own time, with no rush whatsoever, and doing this in a way that feels comfortable for your body, so without the guidance of my voice, we're going to bring ourselves into a 4-point kneeling position. Slowly taking all the time that you need, listening to the body and what it actually needs in this moment. And as you come into your 4-point kneeling position, with the hands resting underneath the shoulders and the knees about hip distance apart, we begin by simply allowing the belly to soften, to bulge, to completely relax. Letting the belly hang. And that in itself can be a very challenging movement or sensation to allow in our bodies. We can tend to really grip through this space. And so simply allowing the belly to soften, to drop, to let go, release, relax, bulge. Find a word that resonates and invite the belly to let go. You begin to take some very subtle and gentle circles. And again, allowing the belly to stay rested, relaxed. No need to focus on holding. This is a different way to explore movement in this position. Often we're told we need to bring the belly button towards the spine. And there's nothing wrong with doing that, but we're simply allowing a different sensation through the body. And we take those circles into the opposite direction. And as you become more familiar with this practice, this is where you offer more intuitive or body-led guidance. How does the body want to move? Tuning into the breath and allowing this to be an expression of the body or an exploration of the body. Then we begin to snake the body. Really tuning into the sensations. How does this feel in my body? And then coming again to rest somewhere in the middle. Imagining now that your thorax is within a wine barrel and you're beginning to touch with the thorax every section of that wine barrel. So using that cat-cow kind of motion, but in a circular direction to press the body against the inside edges of this wine barrel. Allow the head to move naturally with that movement. And again, stopping somewhere in the middle just to observe how this is feeling in your body. And then inviting that same movement, but in the opposite direction. Noticing how it might feel to move in one direction versus the other. And there may be some obvious physical differences and perhaps some more subtle energetic differences, moving towards the left, being more representative or reflective of our feminine qualities, our feminine energy, that being energy, our creative energy, our natural nature and our ability to tune into the natural cycles of our woman's body. And then the right side being more representative of the masculine, that more linear thinking, problem solving, doing energy, and knowing that neither is wrong nor right, that they coexist and complement each other so beautifully. So you may like to now take a wide-legged or rested child's pose. So tune into the sensations of the body. It's a very gentle and subtle practice. Perhaps taking some deep breaths into the pelvic bowl. And take 3 more breaths in this position. Come again to the 4-point kneeling position. And to begin with some pelvic tilting now, very subtle, and focus on the movement at the pelvis alone. So really attempting to isolate this movement simply within the pelvis. Again, letting the breath fall naturally. And then allowing that same movement to resonate through the rest of the body. So perhaps adding the thorax, adding the head and the neck. Allowing the breath to simply land in a way that feels good and nourishing to you. No right, no wrong. Three more rounds. You need to stop somewhere in the middle and making any small adjustments to feel comfortable in your body. We're taking a little exploration of the pelvic floor and how it feels to contract the pelvic floor in some different positions. So we take a relatively neutral position of the pelvis first to begin. And now imagining or sensing into the pelvic floor from the pubic bone at the front to the coccyx or tailbone at the back and the sit bones either side. We squeeze around the anus, allowing the muscles to elevate, to lift. Allowing the breath to land naturally. And then releasing that contraction fully, letting go. Allow the belly to soften and bulge. And again, a gentle squeeze and lift, and perhaps once you have that sensation beginning to continue to elevate, squeeze and lift. Holding that contraction, continuing to breathe. And then letting go, releasing, letting the belly bulge. I'm going to tuck the tailbone under slightly now. And then in this position, again, sensing into the muscles of the pelvic floor, squeeze and lift. And here we're simply noticing how this feels different. There's no wrong or no right. Simply observing and being in connection with the body. And then softening, releasing, letting that contraction go. Staying with that tilt for one more round. Squeeze and lift. Release, fully let go. We tip the tailbone up towards the roof now. And again, focusing on the muscles of the pelvic floor, squeeze around the anus. And then releasing, letting go. Soften through the belly. And again, squeeze and lift, hold, gentle with the breath, full release and let go. Taking some time now to simply move the body in a way that feels intuitive, body-led, relaxed, nourishing. So know that there's no right or wrong. Simply asking, how would my body like to move in this moment? Perhaps you need to take a stretch. Bring ourselves now to a gentle seated position, using anything that you might like to prop yourself up if you need. Folded towel or blanket, bolster. No right or wrong. I invite you to take the flesh of the buttocks and pull the flesh away to allow the sit bones to really ground into the earth beneath. Then taking some time just to focus in on our posture gently. Head stacked over heart, heart stacked over the pelvis. And in this position now, I offer some different ways of connecting and contracting the pelvic floor. So when we're thinking about a strength component, we're doing a maximal squeeze and lift. When we're thinking about coordination, we're going to use the timing of squeeze and relax and play around with that timing and the speed. So coming into this relaxed position, gentle awareness of the posture, relative neutral posture. Again, we're focusing around squeeze around the anus. The evidence says that this is the best cue, the one where we can most likely recruit the muscles of the pelvic floor. And so if you're listening to some music alongside this practice, you perhaps just tune into the music and how that feels in your body, allowing some gentle squeeze and let go in time with the music. Or if alternatively you're experimenting with these phases of these different practices, you can listen to my voice. We begin. Squeeze, let go. Squeeze, release. Squeeze, release. Squeeze and hold. Slow release. Squeeze, release. Squeeze, release. Squeeze and hold. Very slow release. Faster squeeze. Full release. Slow squeeze. Full release. Slow squeeze. Hold. Slow release. Completely let go. Allow yourself to completely relax. Perhaps bring some touch to the body if that feels good. Some movement. Allowing yourself to reset. Again, tuning into that posture very gently, head stacked over heart, heart stacked over pelvis. I'm going to bring a halfway lift to the muscles of the pelvic floor. I'm going to hold that contraction and explore with that halfway lift. Gentle awareness, allowing the breath to continue. Allow the jaw to soften. And if you still have the contraction, continuing to hold. And allowing again the muscles to fully release and let go. Again, bringing any movement, touch, anything that will help to bring the awareness away from the pelvic bowl for a moment and back into the entire body, allowing the release to really sink in and occur. I invite you now to take a butterfly position, so where the feet touch, the knees fall wide. You do need some support to help you feel comfortable in this position. Of course, you can use some rolled towels, some blocks or pillows, whatever feels good for you. Begin to just tune into the body again and take some very subtle circles. And as you take these beautiful soft circles, imagining you're circling around the pelvic bowl, circling around the feminine body, this powerful space that supports us physically, but also energetically, creatively. Space where we bring to life our creations, and not just this creation of babies and birthing babies, but all forms of creativity. Again, we stop somewhere in the middle just to observe how we feel in our bodies. Perhaps observing the left side of our body and the right side of our body, and how we might feel more balanced, more connected, more attuned. Or we might feel very comfortable, uncomfortable, disjointed, disconnected. There is no right or is no wrong. We're simply observing how we feel in our body without wronging it, without needing to fix or change it. We bring those circles into the opposite direction now, and you can place the hands wherever feels good for you. So they can be on the knees, on the shins, on the feet. Allowing the breath to fall naturally. We'll take 2 more rounds in this direction. And stopping to rest somewhere in the center, observing the body, observing the posture. I invite you now to bring the feet in front of you, and you can bring the feet as far away from the body or as close to the body that feels comfortable for you, and taking them really as wide as feels comfortable or narrow. And here we place the hands about, just beneath the knees, onto the shins. And we explore again that gentle rocking, that tipping of the pelvis forwards and backwards. And as you tilt through the pelvis, allow the head to follow through. So as we come forward, the chin lifts, the heart beams forward. And as you gently rock backwards, the chin drops slightly towards the chest, the forehead folds. And as you engage with this movement, perhaps reflecting upon our cyclical nature as women and how we have times of outward expression, creativity, and then when we need times to turn inwards, to nourish, to connect, to restore, recover. And so really contemplating that outward energy, that inward energy, the doing energy, and the being energy, the active energy, and the restorative rest. As you tune into this, perhaps contemplating how they both serve us so beautifully, complementary to one another, both needed and equally valuable to us. Taking 2 more rounds, letting the breath fall naturally. And again, stopping somewhere in the center, offering some touch to the body as a way of connecting inwards. And if this feels uncomfortable, then go at your own pace in your own way. And it's something to explore, is how we connect with our body through touch, that very sensual energy, connected, and that touch to the body that is for the purpose of self-connection. Coming now towards a gentle meditation. So find yourself a really beautiful and comfortable position, knowing again there is no right or is no wrong. I will offer this the purpose really of being able to hear me in a seated position. But I'll share with you a couple of options. Laying down feels really relaxed and nourishing, and you might like to bring the feet to touch and the knees to fall wide in that beautiful butterfly position, and remembering those hand options from the start of the practice. Or you might like to bring the knees to come together and the feet wide. And again, this is a really beautiful connected position to come into the awareness of the pelvic bowl. Or you might like to simply allow the body to rest, the feet to fall into a position slightly wider than hip distance apart, and let the feet fall gently outwards without any force, but just allowing them to be how they naturally would land. Again, no right, no wrong. So find your most comfortable position using any props that you might need to support you. Allowing the hands to come to rest in a position that feels good and nourishing. Gently closing the eyes if it feels safe, or softening the gaze. Bringing the awareness to the breath. Gently tracing the breath once more in through the nose and down the back of the throat. Sensing that beautiful expansion of the lungs with each breath in. Tracing the breath with each breath out. Noticing the body, the sensations of the body. Bringing the awareness to the belly now. Sensing that gentle bulging or softening of the belly with each breath in. The subtle recoil with each breath out. As you come into this space in your body, contemplating that intuitive awareness that we as women carry, that gut instinct, that inner knowing. Then journeying towards the pelvic bowl. Bring the awareness to begin with at the front of the pelvis to the pubic bone. And as you place your awareness on this space in your body, simply sensing into the energy here, physical sensations that you might sense. Perhaps any energetic qualities that you may feel. Any emotion that you sense in this space. Simply bringing your awareness here. Bring our awareness to the right frontal hip bone. Again, noticing any physical sensations, any energetic qualities, any emotion that sits in this space of your body. Nothing to change or fix, simply allowing and noticing. We wrap around to the back of the body, to the right side of the sacrum. Again, noticing any energetic or physical, emotional sensations or qualities that are present. Bring the awareness to the right sit bone. Continuing with that observation of body, of whole self. Awareness now to the tailbone. to the left sit bone and the physical sensations, energetic qualities, motion. Bring the awareness to the left side of the sacrum. Wrapping around to the left frontal hip bone. Back to the pubic bone at the front. We notice now the entire pelvic bowl. This beautiful space in our body that supports the rest of our body. It is the base of the deep core that offers us a stable foundation to move from. Breathing deep into the pelvic bowl. Filling this space, offering nourishment, one last deep breath. Bring the awareness more centrally now towards the pelvis, into the space in your body where you sense your uterus or womb space would be. Remembering that this energetic space in our body exists no matter if it physically remains and exists still. The energetic quality is still there within. So we tune into this space in our body. And it is with a very gentle and kind and curious heart, with a sense of self-love and self-compassion, that we tune into this space in our body. Notice how is this space feeling physically. How is this space feeling energetically? Noticing any emotion that is present here. Know that there is no right and there is no wrong. Nothing to push away. Simply being present with what is. You bring a gentle awareness now to the right ovary, and the space in your body where you sense the right ovary sits. And again, knowing that this energetic space within exists, whether the physical ovary exists or not. And as you sense into this space, noticing how it feels physically, any energetic qualities. You may sense a buzzing or a circling of energy sensation. You might feel a deep calmness, warmth, softness, knowing there is no right and there is no wrong. Sensing into any emotion that might be present. And as you tune into this space, a very gentle reminder of the right representing the more masculine qualities, our ability to show up, to share, to speak our truth, to express ourselves, to create loving limits, boundaries, healthy boundaries, to take action in a way that feels aligned and resonant. We shift our awareness very gently when you feel ready to the left ovary, in the space in your body where you sense the left ovary sits. Knowing again that the energetic space remains even if the physical ovary no longer remains. Sensing into the energetic qualities here, the physical sensations, any emotion that may be present. Simply being with and allowing the body to show you what is here. Gentle reminder that the left is more reflective of our feminine qualities, our willingness to move to our natural rhythm, to attune ourselves to the cyclical nature that we as women hold, our being energy, our creative energy and our creative expression. More inward and reflective being energy, that restful and restorative. Self-compassion, kindness, and gentle curiosity. And we bring our awareness to the left and right ovary and play with the energy from one side to the other, sensing the energy move almost like a figure of 8 or an infinity sign, wrapping around the left ovary, traveling towards the right, and from the right back to the left, left to right. Just noticing the flow of energy. No right, no wrong. And then perhaps tracing back in the opposite direction with your mind's eye as you wrap your figure of 8 or infinity sign in the opposite way. Just noticing how the energy might travel differently, or how that might feel more so or less resonant, or much the same. Coming more centrally back towards womb space. As we breathe in now, allowing the breath to fill the pelvic bowl with fresh, nourishing breath. And perhaps with each exhale, a cleansing breath, breathing out through the mouth. Breathing in fresh nourishment. Breathing out all that no longer serves, any residue, old energy. Coming back to rest the awareness within the pelvic bowl. Contemplating what would I like to invite into my life, into my world, to my body. What would feel nourishing? How could I offer myself more permission, more love? What do I no longer need? What would I like to let go of? When you feel ready, breathing deep again into the pelvic bowl. Bring the awareness back towards the belly. Bringing the breath back towards the heart space. Back towards the throat space. Then softening awareness of the breath completely. Begin to come into the space you're in whatever way feels called for. That might be massage and touch to the body. It might be movement. It could be both. Beautiful stretch. And then when you feel ready, in your absolute own time, bring the hands to touch the prayer position at the heart center. And then begin to rub the hands together to bring some energy, some warmth. And then gently place the hands over the eyes and cupping the eyes. And then slowly blinking the eyes open. And then coming back into the space. And so you might like to reflect upon your experience. Notice, how does your body feel now? Anything that came up for you through those different movement patterns, through the meditation. Remembering that your experience can't be wrong. Trusting in what your body is showing and sharing with you. And so to process, you might like to journal, you might like to ask yourself and ask your body, how would I like to move through whatever has been shown to me? It might be physical movement, it might be a beautiful warm bath, it might be feeling and sensing that you would like to approach a more holistic practitioner to explore what is here in more depth and more detail. It might be sharing your voice with somebody who feels very safe, who's going to offer a gentle and listening ear without trying to fix or change your experience. Whatever feels right and called for, connected to you. And it might simply be that this has been the experience and that there is no more to do with that. So I encourage you to find the pieces of this practice that feel resonant, that feel called for, that feel good to you. And you can take small portions or components of the practice and then create your own practice that feels really good and connected and nourishing for you. And as you practice with my guidance, I imagine, and this is the natural progression, is that it becomes part of your own personal practice. You begin to digest it and develop it in a way then that I don't need to guide you through. There is no right or wrong way that you could do it. And it simply becomes your practice that you have created for yourself that feels really nourishing and good for you. So, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for participating and bringing the whole of yourself to this experience. And know that all of you is welcome. In your wholeness, in your fullness, in your depth. None of you, no part of you is wrong. And your experience is simply your experience. and that you have the strength and the capacity to move through this.